On the Record with Amanda Barron is brought to you by Hope Gas.
Everybody, and welcome to On the Record, a very special edition of On the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amanda Barron. It is primary election day in West Virginia, and we can tell you that results are just starting to trickle in as we join you tonight on your local Nexstar stations, app, WOWK Plus, and of course our other platforms, WOWKTV.com and Facebook. We're glad that you're here. We hope you had a chance to get out today and make your voice heard at the polls. Many people have. In just a couple of minutes, we are going to be joined by West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. We have a long list of guests for you tonight who will join us throughout this 2.5-hour broadcast. It's going to be a jam-packed night filled with people who have been there before, people who have experienced all of this, and most certainly people who are excited to know that they will be on the ballot come November. The November midterm general election now is just 175 days away, but who's counting, right? All right, as we begin this hour, we can tell you that U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito has won the Republican nomination for United States Senate in West Virginia. We had a chance to check in with her earlier today as she was voting with her husband, Charlie, and her 3 beautiful grandchildren. And she said she is very excited to have the opportunity for another term, a third term in the United States Senate. Of course, she is the first woman to ever serve in the Senate in West Virginia. So that is the word coming in tonight, and we can tell you that on the Democratic side at this hour, Rachel Anderson looks to be leading the pack at this hour, with Jeffrey Kessler, of course, a longtime member of the political landscape in West Virginia, with 23% of the precincts that are coming in. Zach Shrewsbury with 12%, and Thornton Cooper from South Charleston, who we've seen in many races over the last, I'd say 20 years, might be fair to say. This is just with 8% of the vote in right now. So as you look at those numbers, that is how things are shaping up in the Democratic side of the United States Senate race. Let's move on over to the West Virginia House District race. And right now, our graphic is not updating with how many precincts are in at this point, but you can see at this hour that incumbent Carol Miller leads by about 1,100 votes at this time, 82% to Larry Jackson's 333 votes. Right now, we can tell you that Carol Miller is going to be joining us later this evening. She is in Washington, D.C. She has, of course, served as a member of the West Virginia House of Delegates as well. It's going to be interesting to get her perspective on the races that are happening tonight. Of course, this is a bit of a referendum, you might say, on West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. He is not on the ballot tonight, but in some ways, you might say he is, as he has backed a number of candidates. All right, let's take a look at the Democratic side for West Virginia House District 1. Britta Aguirre right now with 56% of the vote. Vince George with 44% of the vote. We'll keep following that one for you as we move throughout the evening. We will be joined by West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey coming up in just a little bit. Want to tell you that we'll also be joined by Riley Moore. Right now, you can see he is running on the Republican side for the 2nd District as a Republican unopposed tonight. So we know that his name will be on the ballot come November. Flip over to the Democratic side now. And as you can see, with 42% of the vote, Ace Parsi taking the lead. Right behind him at this time is Stephanie Tamana with 41% of the vote, and Stephen Wendland with 17%. That is for the U.S. House District 2 on the Democratic side. All right, we want to tell you about some of the results that are starting to come in right now at the local level. Of course, voter registration is always a place in Kanawha County where so many people gather as they await the election results. Let's check in with Jackson Rosinski. He joins us now live at Kanawha County voter registration with more on the state Senate race. And Jackson, this race is so interesting in so many different ways, as we've really seen 2 factions develop over the last, 6 months.
Yeah, Amanda, that's right. And I'll kind of just set the scene for you here. We haven't had too much action. I would say maybe 2 or 3 cars from local precincts who have come and dropped off their ballots. I've also seen current Kanawha County commissioners coming in, helping out, obviously closing the door to signify that voting has been closed. They brought some food and water for the workers inside as well. But ballots, they're still coming in all across Kanawha County to be counted. And one of the most interesting races tonight, as you alluded to, and is actively being counted now, are state senators in the Republican Party. Republicans, they actually closed their primary this cycle to only registered Republican voters. That leaves over 300,000 independent voters to grab a Democratic ballot instead. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Governor Patrick Morrisey, and David H. McKinley have been endorsing candidates both publicly and with their political action committees in many of the races. And we'll get you those numbers straight ahead as well on OTR. But on the other side of the aisle, many Democrats, they're actually running unopposed except for districts 5, 6, and 7. Independent or Democrat voters in the Huntington area chose between 3 candidates, 2 candidates in the Bluefield area and 2 candidates in the Chapmanville and Logan areas. And back to the closed Republican primary side, races to look out for tonight as those results continue to come in, as more poll workers come in and drop their ballots off tonight, is Senator Tom Takubo taking on Chris Pritt, Senator Vince Deeds taking on Jonathan Comer, and Senator Eric Tarr taking on 2 other candidates as well. And I'll just take a step as well so you can kind of see behind me as the poll workers working right there to try and start the counting process, as this is, I think, car 3 now, so things are starting to pick up a little bit here tonight. But with that shot, we'll take it to break here on the Record, and we'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back to this special edition of On the Record on this primary election day in West Virginia. We want to welcome into the program now West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey, who is competitive by nature and really putting it all on the line in this 2026 primary election. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good to be with you, Amanda. It's a beautiful day, and now the elections are closed, so we're all looking forward to getting the results.
All right, I want to ask you, because I'm looking at these pages of your endorsements here. You went hard this election season to bring in candidates that you think align with your values, that you think will help move West Virginia forward. It's a gamble. You're not on the ballot, but some might say, Governor, you are by way of this.
Well, look, I think everyone who's watching knows that West Virginia has so much to offer. But look, we still have many, many challenges in front of us. I want to make sure that we have the right group of people who are going to help us lift up our standard of living, who care deeply about improving our educational attainment, who want to make sure they're investing in infrastructure and so many economic development projects. And I think we can do all those while we maintain our traditional West Virginia values. So with elections, you have the ability to make sure that you put people in place who care about that. So I wanted to get behind good people who care deeply about the state and who are looking to put the state first, to work together toward an agenda that I think allowing West Virginia to prosper for many years into the future.
What some people have said is the faction that you were supporting has really keyed in on some of the social and cultural issues, whereas the other faction perhaps is more focused on jobs and business creation and economic growth. To those folks, you say what?
Well, look, I don't think people are saying that are trying to mislead the voters, because they know that we've been able to announce projects of over $12.8 billion since October, with projected over 12,000 jobs. We've taken economic development and we're so laser focused on that. But what we've done is we've actually ended the good old boy system, and we're working on the fundamentals. That's the site ready projects. That's the water and sewer, the affordable power. That's critical that we do that. And we're doing all the red tape cutting in a way to make West Virginia so attractive. So we've been really focusing and leading on a lot of economic development initiatives. But unlike a lot of the other people, we don't shy away from the fact that there are other issues that West Virginians care about. Men are different from women. So you see some of the issues, whether it comes up with men and women's sports or in other categories. You shouldn't have to give up your perspective on some of the important social issues while still remaining laser focused on economic issues, high paying jobs, making life in West Virginia more affordable. One of the major things that we pushed in the last legislative session, and it wasn't easy to accomplish, we were able to achieve an across the board income tax cut. No better way to put more money back in people's pockets than having an across-the-board income tax cut. But some of the same people opposing us in this rate, they fought and they didn't want that to happen. I'm looking for people that want West Virginia to really soar, to be that shining state in the mountains.
All right, so you're 2 years in and you have sourced some outside help as far as funding is concerned in this. And that is something that we see in elections, but we're seeing it in a different way during this election. And I just want to give you an opportunity, Governor, to talk a little bit about some of this funding, a couple $1 million that's coming in to help put a lot of mailers in people's mailboxes. I wonder, talk a little bit about that for us.
Well, look, I think that there's always going to be an effort to communicate to voters. And I think what we're doing here, and quite frankly, allies of myself, allies of Senator Shelley Moore Capito, David McKinley, Tom Takubo, they raised a ferocious amount of money. A lot of that money was out of state. There's money in state. I think what we have to do is focus on what's the content going in. I know that I speak very carefully, and I try to make sure that I'm always truthful in the words that I use. There have been some downright dirty ads that have occurred through this session. But the good news is I can look people in the eye and say, whatever I'm saying at least is going to be factual. But what we're doing is no different than what Senator Capito is doing and what many others are doing. The key is that voters need to know your vision. They need to know your direction. And at the end of the day, these are all individual races. People have to run and present themselves. It's not just about outside interest. It has to be one candidate running against another. So we think that we have some good candidates who we've endorsed. I think we're going to win the vast majority of the races tonight. But look, tomorrow we're going to wake up, and you know what we're going to do, Amanda? We're going to come together as West Virginians do, and we are looking forward to putting the best interest of the state first. That's what voters expect. And I'm excited to do that regardless of the outcome tonight.
I'm so glad that you're here right now, because I've said this on a couple different programs. I've said it on this program and other conversations that I've had. But you are incredibly competitive and you fight to win. And we've seen that in your work through the Attorney General's office. We saw you go to court and time again and win. So I wonder tonight, is it going to be disappointing for you? Is it going to be tough for you if some of these candidates don't make it across the finish line to the general election? But also, how do you rebuild some bridges that could potentially have been burned as a result?
Look, I think if you look at the races that we've endorsed, I believe we're going to win the vast majority of those. And people know that I've been positive, and it's very rare for me to say something ill will of another person. But I think that it is also important for people to know voting records so that there's honesty in how people are marketing themselves. But I will say this, we've gotten involved. I think there are probably 43 races that we've engaged so far. I just want people who care about lifting the economy up, care about what's going on with the affordability challenges, care about having West Virginia rise in the education rankings. Whoever gets elected needs to focus on those issues. I've been asking the legislature from day one to focus on that. We've been achieving a number of our goals. We actually had big wins during 2 of the past legislative sessions, but we need to do much more. So what you see in this election is an effort to improve the quality and to move faster so that West Virginia has more of an economic comeback. That's what's at stake in the elections tonight. And I think we're going to prevail in many of them. But whoever wins, we're going to work with them to make West Virginia a better place to live, to work, and to play.
All right, I just counted while you were talking. You were right, 43 endorsements. And Governor, I'm going to let you go to your party. I know you're going to join us again at 10 o'clock tonight. We're very excited, and I can tell you that Carol Miller has won the Republican nomination for the U.S. House in West Virginia's 1st congressional district. So thanks for sticking with me while I shared that with our viewers. Governor Patrick Morrisey, go enjoy your evening, and we'll talk to you at 10. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amanda.
You're welcome.
Be well.
We're back in just a minute. You're watching On the Record. Welcome back to this special edition of On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron, and we are so glad that you're joining us on this primary election night as the results are really starting to roll in. So let's take a look at West Virginia's 2 United States House races. For District 1, we can tell you just in to the newsroom that Carol Miller is leading that race. Now, the Associated Press has called it for the incumbent Miller over her challenger, Larry Jackson. You can see she has a solid lead this hour as we move through the election results. Let's go to the Democratic side of this race. At this hour, Britta Aguirre continues to lead. Vince George, 54 to 46% of the vote. So that one has not been called just yet, to my knowledge, but we're going to keep checking in with the Associated Press. As you can see right now, just 2% of the precincts are in. For District 2 in the Republican side for the House, incumbent Riley Moore has secured the nomination for the Republicans. Of course, he is running unopposed tonight, and he'll join us on the program here coming up in just a little bit. Now, we also want to tell you about the West Virginia U.S. House District 2 on the Democratic side. 43% for Ace Parsi, 39% for Stephanie Tamana. These two have been neck and neck for quite some time. 18% for Steve Wendland. This is with 24% of the precincts, and we'll continue to watch to see when that race gets called. Of course, we are keeping our eye on races all across the region. We have reporters in so many different counties checking in with us tonight. Riley McElmoyle is in Jackson County with more on the mayoral race, where there will be a new mayor in Ripley for the first time in quite a long time, nearly 2 decades. Delaney Wells is in Putnam County. She is covering the levees in Hurricane. We'll check in with her in just a couple of minutes. Lane Ball is standing by in Cabell County for us tonight, and he's going to explain all of the levees that are on the ballot. There are several levees on the ballot, and Maddie Sperling is in the studio to explain election spending. But first, we want to check in with Jackson Brzezinski. He's live in Charleston at voter registration with more on the state Senate race. Jackson, we're also keeping an eye tonight on the mayor's race in Charleston, but you are really in the hub this evening. That's the place like every reporter wants to be, where you are tonight, because it's where all of the action is.
Oh, that's right, Amanda. And I mean, a couple of cars here. I've just been sitting here for maybe a couple of minutes, and they've been talking to me and saying that, you know, how good of a job that we're all doing. It's been great so far. I've seen a couple of Kanawha County commissioners, as well as, you know, a bunch of poll workers as well. And I'll even get out of the frame here. As you can see, they're behind me right now, actively working to get those ballots into the inside of this building so they can start counting more and more. We do know that some of those results have been coming in as we speak, as you were mentioning at the top of this hour as well. Now, it's been busy with a lot of action tonight, but there is more than a couple of interesting races tonight. One is actively being counted right now, and that's the state senators in the Republican Party. And as you know, Republicans closed their primary this cycle to only registered Republican voters. That leaves over 300,000 independent voters to grab a Democratic ballot instead. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, Governor Patrick Morrisey, and David H. McKinley, they've been endorsing candidates both publicly and with their political action committees in many of the races. We'll get you those numbers straight ahead, as you alluded to. On the other side of the aisle, though, many Democrats, they're actually running unopposed, except for districts 5, 6, and 7. Independent or Democrat voters in the Huntington area chose between 3 candidates, 2 candidates in the Bluefield area and 2 candidates in the Chapmanville and Logan areas. And back to the closed Republican primary side, races to look out for as the results continued to come in will be for Senator Tom Takubo taking on Chris Pritt, Senator Vince Deeds taking on Jonathan Comer, and Senator Eric Tarr taking on 2 other candidates. I just wrote down a couple that were very, very close before we came out here live. The Deeds and Comer race is super close. Wheeler, Bartlett, and Eschnauer, that 3-way race, that one is also very close. The Eric Tarr and Mike Azinger, both incumbent races, are also very close right now. Just looking at a couple of numbers, they're between 200 to 300 votes in between them as well. But as you can see here behind me, there's still a lot more votes to be counted here tonight. But for now, live in Charleston, Jackson Brzezinski for On the Record.
All right, if you turn around and wave, Jackson, we can see you here at the station, so that's good. I'm glad we can keep an eye on you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, we want to check in on the spending and all of this. And of course, we're looking at the State House races because there is such a faction that has grown within the confines of the West Virginia Senate. Reporter Maddie Sperling joins us now. And Maddie, this is going to be a real eye-opener for who has control of the Republican Party, essentially, in West Virginia.
Right, Amanda. And as Jackson said, a lot of these races are still really close, but some are leaning towards the Morrisey faction. We've talked all night about how much money went into these state-level GOP primaries. The question is, can money buy an election? During this cycle, I spoke to a lot of people who feared that what happens in this primary could set a precedent for the future of West Virginia elections. By the end of the night, Governor Morrisey could have a legislature filled with loyalists that will pass anything he wants. He could also have a very cross group of lawmakers. And so far, I'm not seeing a huge lead, but there are some delegate races that are looking leaning towards some of his biggest rivals that are leaning towards Morrissey's challengers. But we'll have to wait till the end of the night to see what happens.
All right, we're just getting started. Maddie, thank you so much. We'll check back in just a little bit. We want to head to Cabell County now, where the future of emergency and senior services, as well as transportation, is being decided tonight by the voters. 13 News reporter Lane Ball joins us now in Huntington. Lane, all of these major levies are on the ballot this year. The timing is interesting because in many cases, you're not going to see an increase in taxes in some capacities. But right now, people are facing many challenges financially because the cost of just about everything has gone up.
That's right, Amanda. A lot to unfold during the Cabell County primary. We're awaiting the results of 2 TTA levies, as well as senior services, EMS, fire, and also health department levies, and the outcome of those will determine the future of the services. Now, the TTA levy, just to kind of explain it, if approved, is not expected to increase the overall tax rates, but the levy was separated for Cabell County and City of Huntington residents, creating 2 levies to prevent the entire county from solely bearing the cost of a majority Huntington system and vice versa. Also, the senior services levy proposal would increase 20 cents per $100 property value, a total of 40 cents, to continue offering services like Meals on Wheels. Voters also had a chance to decide if an additional temporary tax will be added to fund Cabell County emergency medical services, the Cabell Huntington Health Department, and also fire protection. Voters have been saying that above everything else, safety is their top concern.
Levies are important for all voters. It's all the services that a community needs. Really appreciate anybody that takes the time to do their civic duty.
The county EMS levy would put the rate at $3 per $100 property value. The health department levy would go up to $1.20, and the fire protection levy would also increase to 70 cents. We'll be here at the Cabell County Courthouse awaiting all of those results from all of those levies, and we'll bring you live updates as we get them in. Back to you, Amanda.
All right, Lane, lots of good action there. We see everyone very busy behind you, and we appreciate the perspective. Thank you. Let's head east now to Putnam County. That's where Delaney Wells joins us. East from Cabell County is what I'm saying. Let's check in with her on the Hurricane Street levy. That one, Delaney, has a lot of people talking. There's a lot of traffic there, and there are also some potholes. All right, we're going to check back in with Delaney here in just a couple of minutes because obviously a little issue with her mic, but we're going to do that here in a little bit. Delaney, no worries. We'll come back to you. It is not a big deal. We want to head out to Jackson County now, where Ripley is going to have a brand new mayor for the first time in about 2 decades. Of course, Carolyn Rader has been at the helm. She is known across the state for being quite possibly the most patriotic woman alive. She's known for being on the street corner, waving her American flag on Fridays, and just really has this endless energy that I'm sure people are going to miss. Riley McElmoyle joins us now, and Riley, she's certainly sad to leave, but has confidence in the people who will succeed her.
Absolutely, Amanda. I had the pleasure of speaking with Mayor Rader earlier today, but right now I'm inside the Jackson County Courthouse, and just behind me here you can kind of see through this doorway. That's where all the results are rolling in as the city of Ripley awaits their new mayor, as Mayor Carolyn Rader finishes her 5th and final term as mayor. Now, this was a nonpartisan ballot, which means it was a measure on every single ballot within the municipal city limits of Ripley, which whether you were participating in the Democrat or the Republican primary with those 4 candidates. Those were Steve Donahue, Richard Howard Gobble II, Dwayne Pugh, and Vince Rife. Those votes for those 4s are now being counted. And I spoke with Mayor Carolyn Rader, who says it's been an honor to serve the community and has full faith in those who look to take up the role.
Especially in small towns. And I think one of the most important parts of the election is that people just aren't quite sure of that. Not only are they electing a mayor today to represent the city of Ripley, but they're electing 5 councilmen and a recorder.
As Mayor Rader said, along with that race, there is a new city council that is going to be set with voters selecting 5 candidates from a list of 10 individuals to make up that new city council. Now, July 1st will mark the last day of Mayor Rader's term in office after almost 2 decades, as you said earlier, Amanda, and then they'll get ready to swear in their first new mayor since 2007 in Jackson County. Riley McMill for On the Record.
All right, Riley, I have a question for you. What day did you say that is her last day in office?
July 1st.
All right, July 1st. So we are all in the studio. We've been thinking about this all night, wondering like what she's going to be doing during the great 4th of July parade Ripley's known for. So you're going to have to get that scoop for us tonight because we're all very curious, and so appropriate that she had on her American flag shirt tonight. But no doubt, her energy is something that, politics aside, she's got an energy about her and a love for her city that is just something special. Riley, thank you so much. We are going to take a quick break. Our political analyst Tom Sussman will join us in just a little bit. You're watching On the Record. We're glad you're here. Welcome back. Time now to take a look at some of those state Senate races that we are so closely following. So we're going to put those graphics up on the screen. Of course, this is where these factions have developed. And this is a race that you heard Jackson Brzezinski talk about just a couple of minutes ago, and it is close. This is representing majority of Kanawha County, but some other counties, Roane and Clay as well. This is the West Virginia District 8 on the Republican side. Lance Wheeler at this point, this is just with 9% of the precincts in leading. Kevin Bartlett with 31%, and then Stephen Eschenauer with 30%. Bartlett is the Morrissey-backed candidate in this one. So again, this is with 9% of the precinct in. So we're going to keep following this one throughout the night. As you know, the PAC, of course, provided a lot of financial support to the incumbent Kevin Bartlett, who was actually appointed at one point, lost an election, and then also was appointed again. We'll keep an eye on this one for you. Let's take a look at the state Senate District 17 race. This one also very interesting. Tom Takubo, of course, has been targeted by a lot of these ads when it comes to that Super Maple PAC that the governor is been a part of. Tom Takubo, of course, one of the people who had a failed attempt at leading the West Virginia Senate. He ran to be the Senate president. He did not make that mark. He is running against Chris Pritt tonight. At this hour, with 12% of the precincts in, you can see that Tom Takubo is in the lead with 56% of the vote. Chris Pritt with 44%. The winner of that race is expected to join us here tonight on the program. And for the unexpired term for the District 17 on the Republican side, we have Ann Charnock, who is the incumbent right now, and then Michael Girouge, who is a very well-known restaurant owner, the Olive Tree in Kanawha County. But Ann Charnock was appointed to that post. This is with 12% of the precincts. And on the Democratic side, a couple of familiar names on the Democratic side in this particular case. Ted Bentner with 51%. Of course, Ted's been around many political circles for a long time here. Richie Robb, former South Charleston mayor, and we've seen Mr. Robb on the ballot in many different capacities over the last couple of years. So right now, Bentner with 51% on the Democratic side, and Richie Robb with 49%. Let's take you to Putnam County now. This has been an interesting race as well. Eric Tarr, of course, has been in the Senate for quite some time. He really doesn't hold any faction, you might say. He's not really a part of any of those factions. So right now, in this race, with 20% of the precincts in, Eric Tarr is leading with 36%, Philip Surface with 33%, and Travis Willard with 31%. We've seen quite a bit of Mr. Surface in television ads over the last couple of weeks. So we're going to keep an eye on that one. Let's go to District 10. This one is where Governor Morrissey and Senator Shelley Moore Capito really have their eye on this one. Of course, we could tell you Vince Dees with 56% of the vote. And then the Morrissey-backed candidate there is Jonathan Comer with 44%. Really interesting. Tom Sussman is here. I'm glad that's where we're ending.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the two bellwether races is the Deeds race and the Takubo race.
Okay, Deeds and Takubo. All right, write it down.
Those are the ones that I think the governor's the most invested or his PACs are most invested, or the ones that he's associated with.
Let's give some numbers real fast. Tacubo Prit race, $312,000 according to Maddie's Senate Battlegrounds numbers here, and then the Comer Deeds race, $256,000. That's a lot of money for state Senate races.
Yeah, and if you look at the Tacubo Prit numbers, then you look at the Ann Charnock numbers against the fellow that runs the Olive
Michael
Tree,
Derouge,
Michael Derouge. They're basically the same. So in Kanawha County, unlike these other races, it's one part of this county. It's not into different parts of the county. So you look at the Eschenauer race, it's like 4 counties: Jackson, Clay, a little bit of Kanawha, a little bit of Roane. So it'll take a while for those to come in, and we'll really get a picture. But for 12% in Kanawha County, I mean, it can always change, but it bids really well for Senator Tacubo and for Senator Charnock.
That race, the Eschenauer Wheeler, it's Bartlett race. Okay, that one's interesting. It's gotten kind of nasty.
Not kind of, it's been nasty.
Okay, I was going to let you say that.
You're trying. No, there's been flyers that have gone out that are just amazingly bad taste, and it's just. Now I have to say though that Lance Wheeler was not part of that. So.
Okay, and we saw, and Lance even posted about some apologies, that happened throughout the election process. So we're glad to see that, that type of behavior exists. We like to know that that people can kind of reconcile in those moments. But one of the things that I think is interesting in that particular case, Tom, is that maybe somebody doesn't want a Kanawha County rep because Clay and Roane are like, hey, we want a voice in this too.
That's part of it, and so it depends on Eschenauer. I think he lives in Kanawha County, but has Jackson County roots. In fact, I think he has a buffalo farm in Kenna. So we'll just see how that works. What's kind of interesting though in Kanawha County is that maybe the folks have said we don't want these negative ads.
Yeah, it's interesting because we've seen so much of them, and I think we say that every election cycle too. We're like, it's so negative.
But the level of this one has gone. I mean, I'm kind of used to this. I've been involved in politics, and if you talk to other folks that have been around, the level of negativity and the level of attacks this year was far and above anything we've ever seen in the past in this state.
Okay, I was going to say I've been watching for 20 years now, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this, but I also think that we talk about it was so negative, but it never changes.
No, it's always
gotten a little worse. It's never gotten better.
And let's be straight. Everybody says, well, there's outside money. I remember when my father was in the legislature, the WVEA came in and they took out Bill Brotherton, who was president of the Senate. They took out John Pat Fanning, who was chairman of the Finance Committee. There were about 8 or 9 of them that they took out in a two-cycle period. So this kind of behavior has happened, but it hasn't been to the degree that we've seen.
All right. Well, we're going to keep an eye on the Deeds and Tacubo races specifically. Those are very interesting races.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, very, very much so. Is there anyone that we have 30 seconds left? Is there anyone race that we haven't talked about yet that you
House,
think? Yeah.
The Vernon Criss race. Yeah. He's chairman of the Finance Committee. He and the governor and the governor's wife had bad feelings during session. They spent a ton of money on that race.
Yeah.
It was too early to call at this juncture. We just have to wait and see how that one fares out.
I'm looking to find. I was looking to find. I have that picture where you see the First Lady and the governor sitting in the finance meeting, and then the next picture we have is Vernon Criss. So that was a moment etched in our minds.
That's a moment, and I have never quite seen that since I've been at the Capitol.
Yeah.
Generally, the governor will come in, we'll go back to the chairman's office, they'll have a discussion. But Governor Morrissey's a policy wonk, and he's in the middle of it.
He is for sure, and he is competitive, as I mentioned before.
Absolutely.
Tom, we'll check back in with you in just a little bit.
Okay.
We're taking a quick break. We'll check in with Riley Moore when we come back. Welcome back to a special edition of On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron. We want to check in now with the U.S. Congressman from the 2nd District, Riley Moore, and he is fresh off his unopposed victory tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. We certainly appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah, Amanda. Thanks for having me on.
Well, congratulations to you as you move forward into this next challenge, which is just now 175 days away. As you look to November, I want to ask you about the state of the financial situation that so many people are dealing with right now. People vote with their wallets, Congressman, and right now gas prices are at a point where it's difficult for a lot of people to pay. I wonder if you think that that's going to be a difficult hill to climb for Republicans come November.
Well, look, we got a long way till November, certainly, and a lot of this is driven, obviously, by the conflict in Iran. There's been a lot of inroads that have been made by the president, the Secretary of State, and the Vice President in terms of conversations with the Iranians and trying to come to an agreement, but also opening up the Straits of Hormuz, which we have seen vessels starting to move through there. So that's going to really be contingent upon prices of gas. And obviously, there's a pass-through cost in that, which raises the price of everything else. We're obviously acutely aware of all of those things. And that's why we're very confident the president is going to be able to bring this conflict to an end, which it's essentially at an end now, but have a negotiated settlement that's going to be, I think, beneficial for the American people in the long run.
Congressman, there are people who are very frustrated, and we've seen President Trump's approval rating in some capacities take a turn in a direction that he and his supporters don't want to see it go because of this conflict in Iran. You know, he said he was a no-war president, and we're obviously seeing something very different right now. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I think that, look, the president was put in a almost impossible position where the Iranians were 2 weeks out from breakout capability to be able to build a nuclear weapon. And one of the things that we discovered in this, unfortunately, during this conflict, is that they had lied about their ability to produce intercontinental ballistic missiles and medium-range missiles, which one almost hit Diego Garcia, that base out there in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So put those two things together, the Iranians would then have the capacity and the capability to have nuclear weapons on missiles that could strike Europe and even potentially the United States. So there was a very difficult decision for the president to make. Certainly would not want to be in his shoes regarding that, but I believe he has made the right decision to keep the American people safe.
I want to talk to you just about energy in general. We're watching, natural gas really have a moment. What are your thoughts on the nation's energy policy at this time?
Well, look, natural gas here in West Virginia. I think what's so frustrating for myself and I think many around the state is that our inability to be able to get things permitted in terms of pipeline construction. We saw that with the Mountain Valley Pipeline. It took 14 years. Meanwhile, it took 1 year and 45 days to build the Empire State Building, but it takes us 14 years to build a pipeline. We've got to do these things better. We've got to do them faster. That's why we passed the SPEED Act, which expedites permitting processes here in the United States so we can get those types of critical pieces of infrastructure in the ground and underway. I'm very hopeful that the Senate is going to take that up because it's so important for a state like West Virginia to be able to export that critical energy such as natural gas, and obviously coal is such a big part of our economy and will continue to be so. We had a lot of things in the One Big Beautiful Bill that help the coal industry as well.
All right, when you join us in the next hour, we should know who your counterpart will be in this second congressional district race. So we hope that you'll check back in with us in just a little bit, and we'll have a more clear picture of what November looks like. Only 175 days away.
Sounds good. Thanks,
right.
Amanda.
Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate it. We're going to take a quick break. You're watching On the Record. Welcome back to this special edition of On the Record. We're glad that you're joining us on your local Nexstar Stations app, and we know that some of you are joining us by way of WOWKTV.com and our Facebook page. We have a long list of guests for you tonight, and we are happy to be joined now by former West Virginia Senate President and now with Experience Matters, Craig Blair. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you.
It's a pleasure, and happy birthday.
Well, thank you very much. It's very nice of you. What a party.
You didn't see that coming,
I did not. Thank you. Very nice. I have some treats over there from Secretary Warner. We can enjoy those during the break. Hey, listen, we're glad that you're here, and I know that you can really give a unique perspective to all of this because you've watched these factions in the Senate for years. Were the lines in the sand quite as deep when you were Senate President?
The lines were deep, but it was how it was managed.
Okay.
We worked every day. We go over our agendas but for both the committees and what we did on the floor and managed the bills. If we had the votes, then we ran the bills. If we didn't have the votes, then we pushed them back. And it was about prioritizing your agenda to what you knew that you could get done.
Right.
And it wasn't about throwing each other under the bus. You know, the Preston County is entirely different from Berkeley County, from Kanawha County. And we've all got these different issues, and we need to be able to work together and be able to serve the needs of the entire state.
Sure.
And then you can't use a cookie cutter approach to do that when we've got 6 or 7 distinct different areas in the state that we need to be able to work to give them opportunity.
They're almost like all with their own little states within, and I wasn't being rude. I was just glancing over here to see if we could see any results as they come through. What races are you really keeping an eye on tonight?
Well, there's a couple of them. First of all, Senator Capito's race.
Okay.
I want her to clobber Willis bad.
She took the nomination according to the AP.
Good. That's what I want to hear.
All right.
And the reason for it is that she's got the seniority, the 4th or 5th highest in West Virginia or in the U.S. Senate. For a little state like this, that's a big deal. And she gets the job done. And I love Shelley.
All right. Let's talk about I want to talk about the Deeds race. The Deeds-Comer race. What are you thinking about that one?
Vince Deeds, a tremendous human being and a great senator on top of it.
This is Greenbrier County.
Yeah, Greenbrier County, and there's him and Jack Woodrum serve in the same district together. That is a powerhouse team that works for the people from that given district.
Which way do you think that one's going to go tonight?
Oh, it's going to be Vince Deeds. No question about it in my mind.
And Vince Deeds, of course, is of the as we're breaking this down in very broad brush here. He was not backed by the governor. That's the Comer race. That's the Comer race.
No, he's not backed by the governor.
Not backed by the governor. All right, and there's been a lot of money spent in that race too. $256,000 in the Vince Deeds, Jonathan Comer race. One of the things that we've noticed because of all of this money here is these mailers, and I want to give you a chance to talk about that because you want to put some pressure on lawmakers when it comes to those mailers.
Yeah, I'd like to. Look, when the voters get these things in the mail, they think that they've got to tell the truth. They're not telling the truth. The truth is very elastic, and I'm talking about from here to Huntington for some of the stuff that you see that's on there. And so that you think that the Secretary of State's can actually go out, but they have virtually no enforcement powers. There is no way to control what's going on. The legislature itself needs to come back in, take control of this situation, and make it so that what the people read, is the truth. And it's one thing to have a lot of money, but it's another thing to have a lot of money and not be telling the truth that's out there and making it appear that via pictures also that people were associated with each other. This is foolishness. You can't make good decisions on bad information. And if everybody had the true information that was in front of them, our state would be flourishing with making the right decisions on who to lead.
Well, that 3 minutes and 45 seconds went fast, so let's have you come back in the very near future and we'll have the free speech debate. How about that?
I'd love to.
Former Senate President Craig Blair, you're always a blast to talk to. Appreciate it. Happy primary election night.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're back in just a minute. Everybody, and welcome to our special program tonight on the record. It's the extended version. We're going until 10:30 this evening, and we hope that as you're watching us, you're also able to go to our website, WOWKTV.com, and scroll along with some of the results that continue to update. But we can tell you in some of those major races, we do know at the federal level that, of course, U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is going to be on the ballot in November. So is Carol Miller, those two incumbents, along with Riley Moore on the Republican side. We're going to update you on the Democrats just as soon as we can. We want to go to Cabell County now. That's where Lane Ball joins us tonight from the clerk's office, where there's quite a bit of activity, Lane, and we know that there are several major levies on the ballot this year, and many of the precincts are rolling in. What can you tell us so far about results?
Well, Amanda, as you just mentioned, we have a lot of numbers that are coming in. We have around 52 out of 68 of the precincts that have already come in, and it's very clear that all the levies that have been on this primary ballot, a majority of the voters are for them, and those include the two TTA levies, one for Cabell County and one for the city of Huntington, as well as a senior services and a fire, EMS, and health department levy. And as I mentioned, it's upwards around 77% and around 80% for most of those levies, and they are all those votes are for them. We are still waiting to get more results in about those, but they are still coming in. They're coming in pretty quick, so we're hoping to have those in the next few minutes.
Yeah, they're moving pretty efficiently there. Lane, anybody who's running for office there, have you seen anybody, or is it mostly people who are focused on this levy tonight? These levies.
It appears that it's mostly people who are focused on these levies. Yes, that's what it appears to be like. There may be a few other people. We're still kind of working our way around the room, but as of right now, it seems like a lot of people are really focused on these levies right now.
All right, as they should be. Lane, thank you so much. We'll check back in just a little bit. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. We're so glad that you're here for special primary election coverage in West Virginia this May 12th, 2026. Stay with us. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the Record. Tom Sussman back with us, TSG Consulting. I'm glad you're here. I got it right. I wanted to make sure I got it right. To me, you're just a reliable source here for really good information and great perspective. And one of the races I want to lean on you right now for is the race for the West Virginia Supreme Court. There are 2 seats that are up for grabs. Of course, Beth Walker retired, and Tim Armstead, of course, passed away. You know, just last night I had a question about this particular race, and I thought I'll text him, and then I thought, you know, we just miss him so much.
Absolutely. I was talking with Dan Greer today, and he and Dan were real close, and it's just such a loss. It's
such a loss, and so now the push is on to fill those seats. Gerald Titus and Tom Ewing are the people who were appointed to both of those posts, and as we look at the numbers right now, Tom, it appears that the candidates that the governor is backing are down. Yeah, they're appointed. They're down right now.
Right, and with about 40% of the vote in, again, still early, it looks like Kirk Kirkpatrick, former judge from Raleigh County, is going to pull it out. He's got 31% to Titus's 26%, but again, it's pretty early. And then Bill Flanagan looks like he may unseat Tom Ewing. Okay. And then kind of a surprise, looks like Jim Douglas may beat Dan Greer for the Intermediate Court of Appeals. Okay. Right now, that's about 40% in. Douglas is running with about 59% of the vote, and Greer with 41%.
As you look at these numbers, are you surprised to know, I mean, because this is it tonight for this nonpartisan Justice of the Supreme Court of Appeals post. Whoever wins tonight wins. And so I wonder, are you surprised that the 2 men who we've seen on TV, Justice Titus and Justice Ewing, are falling short with 40%? And things obviously could change at some point.
Not really, because the support that came out for Judge Kirkpatrick, the support that came out for Flanagan and the folks that were talking in the closing end of the campaign, and really in these races, a lot of people don't vote for Supreme Court because they don't understand it, and the folks within the legal community do. And so I think it's sometimes a little different electorate than what you may have for the House of Delegates or State Senate. And you know, Kirkpatrick made a name for himself and good justice. And they're in that race where there are 5 people running, so if you can get 31% of the vote, you win. Yeah, and just looking, and he became a household name in some after the Natalie Cochran trial. I mean, he opens up the courtroom, you know, to the world to watch a trial that was captivating. If you're a court watcher, you were really into that. All right, what other ones are you looking at? Well, since we last talked to you? It looks like the House of Delegates, kind of again watching that. Want to see what happens with Vernon Criss and where he ends up at the end of the day. And the numbers we're getting from Metro are still running behind. Again, just the composure of that legislature. And I'd say within the next half an hour, 45 minutes, we'll get a real good feeling on did the governor prevail? Did the Team Takubo prevail? Or is it just kind of a mix? And it may just be a mix, and we continue with the acrimony that we've had. Do you think that West Virginia could be better off? We've had these supermajorities for so long, and you know we've never been purple. We can't handle it. So do you think that we would be better served if we were? Absolutely. I think if we had. The best time that I think state government worked is when there was about 45% Republican and 55 Democrat, and then it switched to maybe 55 Republican, 45 Democrat in the legislature. Can't even imagine, And the competition for ideas, that's where you need it. Everybody wants to talk about politics and I'm in charge, but really the legislature is about public policy, and you get better public policy when you have competition. You have a point there. You know what you're talking about, Sussman. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're back in just a minute.
Welcome back. After 18 years and 4 consecutive terms as the mayor of Ripley, Carolyn Rader is hanging up her hat. It's probably one that is full of American flags. Let's go back to Jackson County. That's where we find Riley McElmoyle. She is at the courthouse, and I heard you just say during the commercial break, Riley, that you think they're going to come out with numbers any moment. There are a couple of people, 4 candidates, I think, who are hoping to take her spot.
Yeah, that's right, Amanda. There are 4 candidates, and what I can tell you right now is between 2 of those candidates, it's only separated by a few points right now, as we have 26 of 30 precincts reporting, and that does include all of the municipality of Ripley, but those early voters are not counted until every other in-person day of voting is done. So that's why we say, as we seem to wrap up precinct voting here, that we're going to get those numbers here soon. Now, those 4 candidates who are being voted on are Steve Donahue, Richard Howard Gobble II, Dwayne Pugh, and Vince Rife. Now, we are very close to having those results hopefully here soon. And I spoke with Mayor Carolyn Rader earlier, who told me that it was an honor for her to serve the community for so long, but she has full faith in the candidate that is going to be taking her spot.
Especially in small towns. And I think one of the most important parts of the election is that people just aren't quite sure of that. Not only are they electing a mayor today to represent the city of Ripley, but they're electing 5 councilmen and a recorder.
We are getting those numbers into for that city council, as well as the recorder who did run unattended. Now, July 1st will mark the end of Carolyn Rader's term as we get ready to turn over a new leaf in Ripley with a brand new mayor. And I did check for you, Amanda. That 4th of July parade is already fully prepared and planned out. It is ready.
No shock there that she'll work a few extra days just to make it all happen. Riley, if you get those results, send me a message in good old Teams here. I want to know. Just as soon as we have word. I'm trying to stall here just in case they'll bring out the results, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Riley, thank you.
I feel like it's going to happen here.
It will as soon as we hop off the air. All right, Riley, we're taking a break. We're back in just a minute. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to On the Record. We want to take you back to Putnam County now, where we are learning that 45 out of 45 precincts are in. On the ballot is this public safety levy and also a street levy as well. So the levy is to authorize additional levies for streets and public safety for the next 5 years. And you can see right now, 70%, this is with Delaney just said that she's getting 45 out of 45 precincts, and so sometimes it takes a minute for everything to catch up. This with 71% of the precincts, and the levies appear to be passing based on what we are seeing right now. Let's check in with Delaney Wells, who joins us tonight from Winfield with more on these 2 levies. Also, Delaney, you have word on that Senate race also out of Putnam County, where we have 2 men who are trying to unseat, or at least as far as get on the ballot is concerned, Eric Tarr.
7-2. Yeah, Amanda, that's right. 45 out of 45 precincts are in. I've been seeing the results come in behind me, and it looks like incumbent Eric Tarr is in the lead. Again, those are unofficial results. They'll keep coming in, but you did mention those levies. Now, this was a big deal in Hurricane because many Hurricane residents thought that this street levy would add tax, but that's not true because this levy is not new. It's just a renewal. It's been on the ballot since 1947, and it renews every 5 years. Now, this levy provides nearly $400,000 for paving and concrete work, along with nearly $400,000 for the police department. It plays a role in maintaining the infrastructure and providing additional resources for public safety throughout this city. And I spoke with some voters earlier who say they do want to see the Hurricane streets improve because they want to see the city continue to grow.
Well, Hurricane's a beautiful place to live. I've called Hurricane my home for 25 years. And I think anything we can do to continue to improve the quality of life here in Hurricane, I would support. So I'm definitely in support of the levy, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day. But I hope people will support that cause because it's wonderful to call Hurricane home.
And as you said, the levy was 70 to 29% in favor of the levy passing. If it were to fail, it could have led to police layoffs and limit paving work around the city. And it could also, the Hurricane Police Department could lose resources and go from 18 officers to 13 officers and lose school resource officers. But with 45 precincts in, it looks 70 to 29% in favor of the levy in Hurricane. But for now, live in Putnam County, Delaney Wells, 13 News.
All right, Delaney, thank you so much. Also want to tell you that with 38% of the vote, this is with 71% of the precincts in, Eric Tarr is leading that race. Travis Willard, 32%, and Dr. Philip Surface with 31%. That's with 71% of the precincts in. But Delaney was telling us that with 45 out of 45 precincts in, Eric Tarr, the incumbent there, appeared to be headed to the November ballot. So we'll keep checking that. There's a levy on the ballot in Madison and Boone County, and if it's passed, it's an election to authorize levies for Madison street maintenance, recreation, police protection, and general government expenses. And we could tell you right now, as things stand, 77% of the voters are for that levy. 304, well, isn't that appropriate? 304, there you go, to the 90 votes against. That is the word this hour as we continue our election coverage here on a special edition of On the Record. We're glad you're with us. Carol Miller is going to join us when we come back. You are watching On the Record. Stay with us.
On the Record with Amanda Barron is brought to you by Hope Gas.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our continuing primary election night coverage. This is our show On the Record. If it's the first time you're ever watching this show, we're really glad that you're here. We do this every night at 8 o'clock on the WOWK Plus app or your local Nexstar Stations app. But tonight we have decided to create a primary extravaganza, and we are going until 10:30. So we're glad you're along for the ride. Every night we have conversations with the day's biggest newsmakers, and we've had a whole host of fantastic guests tonight, and now we have another one. We're going to turn now to Congresswoman Carol Miller, who secured her spot on the November ballot. And we want to thank you so much for joining us, Congressman or Congresswoman. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's my honor. Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. You are in D.C. tonight because the work never seems to stop. I want to ask you how you're feeling after defeating Larry Jackson in that race.
Well, again, it is my honor to be here, and I'm very happy that people have the confidence in me and the work, and they understand why I'm here, which is for our children, our grandchildren. It's for our state. It's for creating jobs and making sure that our state is being as great as West Virginia can be.
All right, I want to ask you, and I don't want to, I'm going to say put my foot on the gas here and go to November, but I want to ask you about gas prices. You know, I asked Congressman Moore about this as well. People vote with their wallets, and people are very frustrated right now with gas prices. And I wonder how much you think something like that and the fact that prices on everything are going up is going to affect Republicans come November.
Well, I think we need to put in perspective also of the last 2 years, how the cost of gas has gone up and come down, and it's up right now because of what is going on in the Middle East. And I know there's some talk about gas tax, and of course I would support if the president, you know, wants to reduce the gas taxes. We do vote with our wallets, and it's hard. So we have to put a lot of things in perspective. We did the working man's bill / one big beautiful bill and worked so hard on costs of so many things, trying to make sure that our middle class is very comfortable. And so gasoline's right there.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Does it concern you as a Republican? Because, you know, political watchers might say the Republicans who might have been a shoo-in before could have a difficult time come November because of so many of these price issues.
Well, there's more to it than just the gas, and people are always talking, and the political pundits are always talking, but they have to remember what we're doing and why we are doing it. And when you look at the number of jobs that have been created, things are looking so much better for West Virginia, and that's what started me on this 20 years ago when I felt like somebody needed to do something about it. We were losing our youth. We were watching our 40-year-olds taking their children and going to Charlotte, going to Nashville, going other places looking for employment. And that's when I first decided to see what I could do to help. And it has worked, and will continue. When you look at the job market in West Virginia and what is available and all the counties that I'm covering, and of course, we need to continuously work on southern West Virginia. But when you look at Jackson and Putnam and Mason and what's going on right now, it's really phenomenal.
I want to ask you just very quickly as we head to the break, what will your main message be to constituents, to voters come November?
Well, I will continue to work on rural health care in particular and making sure that we have the best coverage we can have. And I've worked to make sure that the jobs are available, to make sure that the environment is such that people can be well employed. West Virginians are special people. And, you know, I look at the doctors in the hospitals and how we can take care of the issues. I've done a lot of work on kidney disease because between the obesity and diabetes and the unhealthy living that we've all taken part in, how important it is to have availability. And I use the term taking small bites of the apple on my legislation and things we can do to help make sure that the healthcare is accessible and good here in West Virginia. And I'm on the Ways and Means Committee, which has a lot to do with taxes. And in fact, our first field trip was to West Virginia when we were working on that one big, beautiful bill that was to be the working families bill and is. So our whole committee came and had a field trip to West Virginia. We went all over the country listening to people and listening to the businesses and how we can help and what we could do about taxes. So Ways and Means is a quite a heavy committee. I'm honored to be. I don't think anyone from West Virginia had been on that committee since 1948. Yeah. So
I remember when you got that
fighting
appointment
to make sure that the economy is right, that the taxes are right, that we take care. We're an energy state, and what we can do to make sure that we are sound in what we're doing with all that's going on around us. So my door is always open. I have a wonderful staff in West Virginia as well as here in Washington, D.C., and we are accessible and we listen because that's what I'm here to do is to take care. And I want to make sure that our 40-year-olds can thrive and raise families and have their kids. And, you know, I go home every weekend to go to games and be with my grandchildren and be with my family. And I'm so blessed that I have kids and grandkids right here as others in West Virginia want to do. And that's why I want to make sure that we attract our doctors and people back into West Virginia and show what a wonderful lifestyle we have right here.
And we know you're one of your 40-something year old child on the ballot tonight in Cabell County running unopposed. We appreciate your time. And as we head to the break, Congresswoman, I want to let you know Vince George is leading right now by 606 votes with 67% of the precincts in. Thank you so much. We'll talk with you soon. We're back in just a minute. Thank you. Welcome back. As we come back on the air here on the record at 9:35, I want to tell you a little bit of news out of Jackson County in Ripley, where Richard Goebel has just secured the spot as mayor. He will succeed Carolyn Rader after her 5 terms. So we know that she said whoever takes her place would do a great job. And of course, I've worked with him over the years in his capacity of fire chief, right? I'm looking at U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito. I'll just bring you on now. Yeah. Thanks for being here. He was fire chief for a while, right?
I think so,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well,
but we'll miss Carolyn. Carolyn is a force to be reckoned with.
Well, she told us tonight that The 4th of July parade is all planned.
Oh,
it's
good.
ready to go, even though she's done on July 1st.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good.
It doesn't surprise us here.
No.
Congratulations on the win tonight.
Thank you.
What's going to be your message to voters in November?
Well, I think the same message that I've pretty much carried over the last several years, and that's that people know me, they trust me. I'm around the state quite a bit, working with individuals and talking about mayors and fire chiefs and county commissioners, but also working with President Trump and the policies that he's put forward to, America First. And so I'm going to talk about how important those are to West Virginia. Okay. And the economic message is still there. I mean, the affordability message is very critical, and that's why the working families tax cut, a safe border, energy exploration, but energy costs are really tough on folks. So we're going to go back and try to do something about that this summer, and hopefully get back at it in November for the general election.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, you said that about affordability, and I've got to ask you, I mean, even people who are very, very supportive of President Trump, there are some who are very frustrated right now, too, because as I just said to Congresswoman Miller, and I said it to Congressman Moore as well, people vote with their wallets.
They do.
Gas prices are unattainable for some people right now.
Well, it is. I mean, they were, what, $4.49, a little bit more than that in other places. I mean, for folks in West Virginia who drive 5 and 10 and 15 miles to go to the grocery store, to school, it's rare. It's very, very tough.
How are you going to reconcile that come November?
Yeah, the president, I think, is working to wrap up the situation in Iran. I think that's significant in terms of gas prices. There's talk now about lowering the gas tax. We'll probably get into that in the next week or so. But I would be for that, but that's going to be a temporary thing, and it's not really going to bring the cost down by dollars, which is what it needs.
Right.
So we've just got to keep our energy independence, and we've got to finish in Iran so that the straits are opened up and the flow of oil is more global.
President Trump obviously ran on a platform, no more wars, and here we are sitting in this, and we're kind of just waiting. I mean, tell me, is it hard for you to support that being in that situation?
Well, I mean, I obviously very supportive of the president. I do believe the Iranian situation was more of a not if we go in, but when, because we know that they were developing nuclear weapons. We know they would use them on us or our friends. And I think there's no doubt there across the board, Republicans and Democrats. But I think, they're strong people, they're resistant. And I think that the president's working hard to reach a compromise, with this ceasefire and opening the straits as minimally as it's open now, I think is good, but it's got to get better.
And this mess of papers, I'm sorry I wasn't being rude, but I was trying to look, because obviously this situation, this election in the State House has broken into factions. It's kind of like Team Morrissey, Team Capito. What is your overall hope? And I want to tell the booth I lost my earpiece. I'll get a new battery in just a second. But what are you thinking as you're watching these races go down tonight?
Well, I think what's important is the primary's over tonight, and I think we've got to pull together as a party. And I think that's particularly important for the legislative races. I do believe that personal attacks on candidates is so foolish, especially within your own party, because to heal those wounds is so difficult. And I think that's what we're going to run into here. But I do believe that I want candidates that are focused on economics, jobs, affordability, and that the social issues need to take the back seat in terms of, there's lots been done there, but there's so much more we could be doing in terms of maximizing West Virginia's future for prosperity, and that's where I hope we focus.
Marilee McAuliffe on the assist there. Thank you. Appreciate that. But he has said that by getting his candidates into office, it will end the status quo. To that, you say what? We'll see.
I think that I'm not the governor, so I don't have to work with a legislator. I'm just a legislator. But I know from past experience of being around a governor for a long time, it's hard to heal those wounds. And when you call people rhinos and ultra liberals and put out terrible mailers on them, the expectations are for you to come back under the tent. I think it's going to be more difficult than maybe what people think.
We shall see.
We shall see.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito, congratulations. We'll see you on the ballot in November, but hopefully before then.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Amanda.
Stay right there for 1 second. We're back in just a minute.
Thank you all.
All right, welcome back to On the Record. We're both feverishly checking our computers right now. Tom Sussman is back. All right, want to check in on the Senate race, the West Virginia Senate race. What can you tell us so far?
Well, I mean, if you look at the state Senate races, it looks like the governor kind of won some, lost some.
Okay.
The big ones, though, are Tom Takubo. It looks like, we can't call it yet, but it looks like Takubo is going to pull this out and win. Looks like Vince Deed's going to pull this out and win.
All right.
The Mark Harmon race, which is up in Grant, Tucker, up in the northern eastern part of the state, that's about a 100-vote difference between him and Jay Taylor.
Okay.
It'll be a while because those are rural counties for those coming in.
Laura Chapman,
that's kind of expected. But she's going to have a tough primary with Sean Fluharty. I would never want to run against Sean Fluharty.
That's going to be a very interesting one to just listen to, because they're both really good speakers.
Yes.
They're excellent speakers. Really good speaker. They're excellent.
Really good.
Yeah, they're excellent in getting a message across. Whether you agree with them or not, you want to listen to both of them.
Yeah, and Sean is really good at presenting his case, and he's a bit flowery. And
yeah, we just sometimes got to watch the language, but other than that, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. great stump speech. So in the Senate, I don't know that Bob Fehrenbacher put on a good race, but I think everybody thought that Mike Azinger would win. Trenton Barnhart.
Well, how way is the Fehrenbacher race trending right now?
It's 62-38. It's been that pretty much all night.
Okay.
Same thing with Trenton and Harshbarger. And Trenton in his own right up there, he had his own established base.
Okay.
Eric Tarr looks right now like he's going to pull that out with about 94%, with 91 of 94 precincts in. So.
Bob Fehrenbacher was somebody who was in the House and somebody who they really leaned on in a lot of situations and committees and things like that.
Yeah, I hate losing him in the legislature. When I was lobbying, he was a person you could go to, you could talk. He'd listen to you. Didn't always agree with you, but paid attention.
Yeah. All right, Mike Azinger, 62% into that one, to Fehrenbacher's 38%, and that's with 60% of the precincts.
And Lance Wheeler looks like he's ahead right now. Again, those are some rural counties. It may take a while for all that to come in. Again, governors with Kevin Bartlett. It looks like Roland Roberts is going to return from Raleigh County.
Okay.
That is a Morrissey candidate. And then Vince Deeds, the governor laid it all out against Vince for Jonathan Comer.
Okay. And there we see he leads with 66% right now, and that's with 65% of the precincts reporting. I just had a chance to talk with Senator Capito about this, but she just says, I've spent some time around governors. I know sometimes it can be difficult to repair those relationships. Do you think that this, gosh, we don't have a crystal ball and it's still far away, but man, is that going to be tough in some situations? There was somebody who was quoted saying, like, if I was treated this way, I would never, go down that path with the governor. I never would want to support his agenda.
No, it's going to be really tough because people in the state are very forgiving, but when you go personal, it's lifelong. And I think this will come back to haunt him when he runs for re-election and he's organizing. And I'm not sure who's going to run against him, but they took a big political gamble, not just for what they get through the legislature, but how he's viewed and when it comes time to organize. And a number of these folks, he may have beat them tonight, but they are political forces within their county. Yeah. And like Tip O'Neill said, all politics are local.
All politics are local. You got that right. We're glad you're here with us tonight. We're going to take a quick break. We're back in just a minute. Everyone, and welcome back to On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron. We're so glad that you're here tonight for this special edition. We're going until 10:30, and we want to check back in with Congressman Riley Moore of the 2nd Congressional District, who secured that nomination in an unopposed race tonight. Congressman, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
I said when we were with you last time that we would check in to see who on the Democratic side you could potentially be up against at this hour, with 86% of the precincts reporting. Ace Parsi is leading with 40% of that vote. Stephanie Spears Tamana with 38% and Steve Wendland with 22%. Tell me your top line thoughts as I read you those numbers.
Yeah, I just saw some numbers kind of trickle in. And they're kind of conflicting. It looked like Ace might get edged out in this. I don't know him at all.
Okay.
I know Steve Wendland because he ran against me last time. So I don't know. It's going to be kind of a toss-up. I think it's going to come down to the wire, which one of them come through this. But Yeah, I mean, whoever it is, I'm going to beat them like a drum, so I don't really care either way. So either one of them's fine.
So you're ready to go. You are confident in what's going to happen in November. What are you hoping to accomplish as far as any sort of legislation between now and that November general election?
Well, I'm on the House Appropriations Committee, so working on those 12 bills and getting our interests and equities included in those bills is a big part of my legislative agenda. But we are looking at a Reconciliation 3.0. And big thing that I have been pushing for to be part of that bill, I'm very hopeful to get in there, is the Jumpstart Savings Program, which you might remember I did as state treasurer of West Virginia. We do have federal legislation on that. I would love to see that included in Reconciliation 3.0. But those are just some of the things that I'm going to be working on and continuing to fight for West Virginia and Washington, D.C.
All right, Congressman Moore, we talked earlier about people voting with their wallets. And I just wonder, as you look at food prices and things like that, you know, oftentimes people who are blessed and honored to serve us on Capitol Hill aren't facing the same challenges that regular everyday Americans are facing. And I wonder if you have a message to folks right now who are in it, who are really in the thick of it and, you know, voted for President Trump, voted for you with the hope that these prices would go down, that they would be able to, you know, live in what the president's talked about is this golden era of America and really be able to just kind of settle in and enjoy life at a time when things feel so unstable. What is your message to people?
Well, certainly, look, we are coming into a golden era. We're reindustrializing this country. We're in a new industrial revolution in the United States. The United States, we added, in the U.S. Labor Jobs Report, we just added in April 115,000 jobs. 76,000 jobs per month on average. Go back to 2025, where we were only adding 10,000 jobs a month. And so this thing is starting to take off. I think, as Secretary Scott Bessent has said, we kind of set the table in the last legislative year, and now this is going to be the banquet. Now, and certainly we're continuing to push on that. All those things are top concern to me. Look, I don't live in Washington, D.C. I live in West Virginia, and I live around my constituents who I talk to constantly. And obviously, these are big issues, whether it's the price of health care, price of food, and fuel as well. But these are all things that we're going to be working on and continue to work on. And part of that, though, too, is we're going to see a change in the Fed chair. That's going to be a big deal because that's going to drive interest rates, I believe, down, which the president has been pushing for a long time. And bizarrely, the last time we had kind of a big rate reduction was right around an election year, October 2024, which seemed to try to benefit the current president at the time, Joe Biden. So I think that we're going to have a rate reduction at the Fed. Fed prime's going to come down, and hopefully we'll see 10-year T-note move as well, where we're going to have a reduction in interest rates, particularly on housing, because housing is obviously kind of taking a upward turn as well as the cost of that. So we need some more capital that's certainly cheaper and not paying such high interest rates, so we can have people can have more access to homes and loans and all those things that are so important to building the American dream.
All right, we'll talk to you again before November, hopefully more than once. Congressman Riley Moore, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We're going to take a break.
Amanda.
We're back in just a minute. Thank you. Welcome back to a special edition of On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron. We are going till 10:30 tonight. We're so glad that you're here as we cover the primary elections. Joining us now to talk more about his perspective as he's watching things is Delegate Mike Pushkin from Kanawha County. He is also the Democratic Party chair, and we're glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Happy birthday. Glad to be here with you. Sorry you have to work on your birthday, but glad I could join you.
How blessed am I to have a job I love?
Yeah.
And the night where we get to do this, right? Yeah. Free speech and elections. I don't think it gets much better than that.
Yeah,
so thank you. Thank you. It's a great night.
Yeah.
Let's just your top line thoughts as you go into this.
Well, first, I would like to congratulate my friend and colleague Bill Flanagan, our newest Supreme Court Justice. He beat one of the governor's hand-picked appointed Supreme Court justices. I believe the other division is still pretty close.
Yeah, we're still looking at this.
Kirkpatrick is still ahead, last I saw. So that would change the makeup of the court. That would change the majority the court, I think, to be more responsive to working West Virginians, and that's always a good thing.
Okay, so I just want to look at these numbers. 83% of the precincts right now, Bill Flanagan with 58% of the vote. Tom Ewing, the incumbent there, who was appointed, and there were 2 spots open. One was because of the death of Tim Armstead, the other the retirement of Beth Walker. And then in the other race, in the Division I race right now, Kirkpatrick, as he's known, has 31% of the vote. Gerald Titus, the incumbent there, 26% of the vote. The governor put a lot of money, Mike, into these races.
Yeah, and well, he picked up a few seats, it looks like, in the primaries. Because we still have November, where we're going to have great Democrats running against some of his hand-picked senators and delegates. But statewide, I think we did pretty good so far.
You and your team over the last couple of months, feels like a couple of months ago now, it was probably a year ago, had your kitchen table tour where you run around the state, and you guys were actively recruiting people to run for office. Are some of those people on these lists tonight?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few as we went around the state, talking about what people really care about and what people want to be heard about, and that's things like the price of gasoline, the price of groceries, their utility bills, where they have good roads to drive on, good schools to send their kids to. And instead, what we're hearing, unfortunately, what we've heard from the governor and the Republican side, they spend millions of dollars on attack ads just on social issues. I really think the people are tired of it.
Looking just at some, you guys, not many, there were some contested Democratic races tonight. I'm looking right now, 14th Delegate District, Crystal Butcher leading by 34 votes right now in that one. Are there some other contested races that you want to pinpoint?
Well, I don't know if they've called any of those yet, but the good news is, we had contested races.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I mean, even in Logan County, we had contested races. In Grant County, West Virginia, a place that's been very challenging for Democrats for years, we've had contested races, which means Democrats are stepping up to run because the people are fed up with the status quo.
I'm looking at this. This is Boone, Lincoln, and Logan counties. George Barker right now leads Derek Pearson, 83% of the vote. He leads by 507 votes. But just interesting to see that another one in Logan, Mickey Browning leading that one by 138 votes against Brittany Fury. So you guys definitely, went out there and got candidates on the ballot.
And these are parts of the state where we couldn't field Democratic candidates several cycles ago. And now we have people coming out of the woodwork and stepping up because they want to be the change that they so desperately want to see in this state, that people so desperately need in this state. So I think it's a good thing. And I think what we're seeing also, Democrats have overperformed in this primary. And I think that's why you're seeing a change. I think you're going to see a change in the makeup of the Supreme Court, which is huge. One branch of government. And also at the intermediate court so far. It looks like there's going to be some changes there as well. So that's a good thing.
All right, well, we'll keep following it, and we know we're going to talk to you a lot over the next 6 months. Always nice to see you.
Again, happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're back in just a minute.
On the Record with Amanda Barron is brought to you by Hope Gas.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this extended edition of On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron. We're so glad you're here on your local Nexstar Stations app, or maybe on WOWKTV.com or Facebook. Wherever you are, we're glad that you're enjoying participating in the civic process tonight. Joining us now to talk more about how things went all across the state of West Virginia is the Chief Elections Officer, Secretary of State Chris Warner. Thanks for coming back. It's hard to believe that was 5 hours ago that you were just sitting here, but the night goes fast. The night goes fast. How'd it go for you guys today? How many calls did you guys get to your fraud line?
We had 196 calls come in today. A majority of those were just human error things. You know, people showing up at the wrong precinct, but our county clerks are well trained. Poll workers, over 8,000 poll workers and over 1,600 precincts. Things went amazingly smooth.
Because there were some concerns about the Republican primary being closed this time around, and there were a couple people who had some questions about that. But overall, it was okay.
Yeah, we had less than 5 calls. 3 different counties where people left the polling place upset that they couldn't get a Republican ballot. And they were registered unaffiliated. The other big news, though, was we didn't have one call about photo voter ID. So it passed in the 25 legislative session. the word obviously got out. Everybody showed up with their photo ID.
Yeah, shout out to your communications team, whom I'm looking at right now. As you look to November, what are some of the things that you think we're going to be up against? Like, there's always something, you know, every time there's an election, there's like the next day where we're like, okay, even in the newsroom, this worked, this didn't. What's going to be on your list tomorrow?
So tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, our office all gets together and we'll talk about everything that happened. I visited the Fusion Center this afternoon. They are already planning for November, so we'll be working closely with them on just watching any threat that may be out there. And so that'll be a key component for us, is meeting with the folks at the Fusion Center.
And you had members, like people from the Fusion Center out and about today, you know, on the ground. Among them, you were not a member of the Fusion Center, but certainly someone who was an election official, and people really listen, Secretary. You guys said if you see something, say something, and obviously based on 196 calls, they did.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel, just knowing that people are participating to that level?
Well, no, it was great. I mean, we had a couple of candidates that campaigned within 100 feet of the polling place, which you can't do that. A couple of disruptions.
Appreciate the eagerness, though.
A couple of voters were a little bit disruptive, but all in all, when you look at 1.198 million voters, this was less than a handful of issues today.
When will we know turnout? And what are you thinking right now?
Oh, I mean, I think sometime tomorrow we'll have the unofficial results are in tonight, as you well know. We start canvassing on Monday. The earliest official results would be out Wednesday of next week. And if it's a multi-delegate or multi-county district for a state Senate seat, it could extend beyond that. But Wednesday would be the first time unofficial results or official results would be available.
Okay, well, we are officially glad you were here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Hope you can get some rest tonight. 9 o'clock will come fast tomorrow.
Yes, it will.
All right, Secretary Warner, thank you. We're back. Governor Morrisey is expected to join us here in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back to On the Record. I'm Amanda Barron. Charleston Mayor Amy Shuler-Goodwin joins us now in the studio to talk about her races. You secured your nomination to be on the ballot in November. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure to have you here. You and Martise, of course, have been on the ballot together before. Very, very vocal. What do you think it was that pushed you over the edge in this one?
You know, I will say this, and I really mean this. A vote wasn't just a vote for me. It was about everything that we're doing in the city of Charleston, the momentum that we have. But most important, it's about the 730 plus employees. I love this city. I work every day really hard for this city, but so do our police officers, EMS, fire, park and recs, refuse, and so it was a vote for all that we're doing right now, not just me.
As you head into the summer season, it's always a very busy time, at a time when people are struggling financially. How is the city going to work to make sure that all of these events, where you just secured some really big names for a couple of the musical events, how do you guys work to keep that in check at a time when finances are tough?
Well, thanks for bringing that up. But the main reason I brought back Regatta was not for the two of us to be there to watch great bands. It was to make sure that the children in the city of Charleston had something fun and free to do. That's why we have a great kid zone. That's why every day during the regatta, there are free events for our kids. Listen, I'm a mayor, but I'm a mom first. You know that. And so my head and my heart is always on our children in the city of Charleston and our business owners. I'm the daughter of a small business owner. Listen, I understand hard times. Our family's business has been in business for 40 years. But everybody is struggling for sure. And I got 2 kids in school as well. So it makes a difference on our pocketbook as well.
One of the things that we heard, we're looking in Cabell County tonight, they have a safety levy on the ballot, and safety is a big thing. And so when people look to the city of Charleston, safety is top of mind for them. And I want to ask you how you strike that balance between being kind and compassionate, to people who obviously need extra grace, need extra help. But also, walk the fine line between the people who say, hey, we want to be able to walk on the streets and know that we're going to feel safe and it's going to look safe.
Well, the streets are safe, so let's start there. And I don't think either one of those have to be mutually exclusive. By the way, you can do both. You can say, I want to help you, because I promise you, if you take a step forward towards me and say, I need help, I need to get in recovery, we're going to get you there. But I will also say to you, time is up. there are consequences for your actions. And I think, quite honestly, our police department has done an amazing job working with our CARE team to make sure that both of those things happen with gusto.
Tell me what your main message is going to be heading into November.
We've got to continue to invest in our infrastructure and in our people. Those are the two things that we really need to do. By the way, yes, paving roads, getting our sidewalks into good shape, making sure our kids have a good and safe place to play, but also checking on our kids. You know, I worry about our children all across West Virginia, but especially in the capital city because they're under my purview. Do we have the programs? Do we have the support systems that they need as well?
All right. Of course, so you secured that Democratic nomination tonight against Martise Washington. You will face Republican Brian Hunt. He was unopposed tonight in the Republican on the Republican side. We look forward to November. We look forward to talking to you again. Congratulations.
Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. We're back in just a minute. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to On the Record. We're joined now by West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey, who has a lot on the line tonight. He's watching all of these races. We're grateful for your time tonight. I know that you have some folks there at the mansion. Thank you for being here. Let's start with the Supreme Court, where your two appointees do not appear to be making it tonight. What is your top line reaction as you watch that judicial race?
Well, first of all, if you look at all the races overall, there have been a lot of really positive developments, a wonderful evening. We've won the vast majority of all of the legislative races and knocked out the number 2 in the House, Vernon Criss, which I think is going to help tremendously because we know that's been a huge problem. He's held back a lot of progress, and I think it's going to be very helpful to have fresh leadership in that Finance Committee. So that's one of the big takeaways of the night. Second, on the Senate side, we've won virtually all of our races. I think there are a few that lose, but the batting average is going to probably be 700, 750. Very, very good. Look, with respect to the Supreme Court races, you try to nominate people that you really have a lot of confidence in for the rule of law. The biggest challenge that a lot of these people have is they're unknown by virtually 60% of the public, and it's very hard to get known in a very short period of time. I think that actually leads to a disadvantage sometimes to the people that were still on the court and had to go introduce themselves to people. But I know that there are going to be some good people that are still working on the court, and I'm looking forward to getting to know some of these other candidates, and there's some other elections coming up. But we need judicial candidates who care about the rule of law and are going to interpret the text the right way. I know that we have an opportunity to observe these new people coming in, and I'll evaluate them and work with them and everyone because I think it's important that West Virginia has a strong judiciary.
I want to talk about one of the other races that where you were keenly focused. That was the race with Tom Takubo and Chris Pritt. At this point, with 41% of the precincts reporting, Takubo is in the lead at this time. And I just wonder how big of a stumbling block how do you rebuild that bridge? Should he be on the ballot in November and then win that election?
Look, I have said it at the beginning, and I think we talked a little bit earlier, whoever the voters send down to Charleston to serve in the legislature, I want to work with them, Republican, Democrat, whoever it is. And I just want people to put the interests of the state of West Virginia first. So I know I'm going to do that. If Tom prevails, we'll try to work well with him. We're going to work with everyone that came in. I will say, though, that looks like we're winning the vast majority of all of the races. And here's what that means from a message perspective. Number one, we're going to be able to advance policies that lift up our standard of living, that cut income taxes, that help improve educational attainment, fix our infrastructure, but we can do that while maintaining our West Virginia values. So regardless of the outcome of one race or two races, you're not going to win them all, but our batting average was exceptionally high. And I think that's good news for the people of our state and our wonderful agenda.
All right. And so as you head into November, obviously Republicans have been in a very an advantageous position over the last several years in West Virginia. Basically, people had an R by their name. They were, you kind of felt like it was a foregone conclusion. At the same time, we're faced at a moment in time where people's finances are very tricky right now, and there are people who are frustrated, with the Republican Party at the federal level. And I wonder how you think that might trickle down and what your strategy will be come November.
Look, I think it's really important that our party continues to be focused on the issues that matter most to West Virginians. We know that people are hurting at the gas pump. We know that the best thing we did this past legislative session is we provided an across-the-board income tax to people. That's putting more money in people's pockets. We need to continually be fiscally responsible so we can provide more money back to the people. That's really important. And for all the people who are winning tonight, I'm going to ask them, let's continue to right-size government, repurpose it, and send more money back to the people. That's my message. And then let's continue to be laser-focused to bring more economic development into the state. Earlier, I mentioned that we had brought in over $12.8 billion of private sector investment since October 1st, with over 12,000 projected jobs. We need to continue that focus on it. I know I'm doing that out of the governor's office, and I'm looking forward to working with every one of the winners in this election cycle to make our state stronger and a better place to live, work, and play.
All right. Well, you are my guest tomorrow on the record, whether you know it or not. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 11:15. Same place. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, I'll talk to you in about
well.
13 hours. Thank you, sir. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. We're back in just a minute. Welcome back to On the Record as we wrap things up. We're so glad that you spent some time with us tonight. And just so you know, we do this every night at 8 o'clock, and it's always this much fun. It's not always 2.5 hours, but we're really glad it was tonight. And to bring us home tonight is former Senate President Mitch Carmichael. I remember seeing you the morning, it was during COVID, I think, the morning after you lost. The election to Amy Grady, and you were still, you're always smiling. You still smile. And then I said, do you want to do an interview? And you said, well, sure, I'll do an interview. I thought, okay, so we're glad you're here.
Still
smiling.
It's my pleasure, yes. And elections have consequences. And, you run into these roles, you do the best you can while you're there, you promote the issues, and you put your record before the voters, and win or lose.
Win or lose. And I know you're enjoying yourself in the private sector right now and worked really hard in the economic development front. You said in a Metro News article the other day, basically, you're not basically saying that it's right or wrong that Governor Morrisey has taken this approach during this. He says you make enemies one way or another. Having said that, I think he has every right to promote the candidates. He wants to advance his agenda. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. He's feeling pretty successful tonight when it comes to some of these House and Senate. Supreme Court, not so much.
Well, my point, everyone was complaining about the amount of money being invested, the governor being involved in the races and so forth. And my point during those comments was that he has every right to promote his positions and the candidates that he feels will best reflect his values and his initiatives. Now, having said that, it's going to be, it's a gamble. And win or lose, you're still going to make enemies. But at the end of the day, Amanda, what I hope everybody puts at their primary focus is what's good for West Virginia. And not about taking personal animosity to about somebody opposed me, or I'm going to oppose this bill or this idea because, the governor came up with it or somebody attacked me during the campaign. Be adults, put all that behind you, put the people of West Virginia first, and let's move this state forward.
All right, so you are watching that Supreme Court race. The two people who were appointed that the governor put his support behind obviously does not appear at this hour they're going to cross the finish line.
Well, and I know both those candidates, and they are wonderful people. So, it's unfortunate they lost, but the people that won, I know one of them.
Flanagan and
Bill Flanagan and Mr. Kilpatrick. I know Bill. He'll be, a great Supreme Court justice. But the one thing that I would suggest, as a former Senate president and someone who spent some time in the legislature, this manner in which we elect Supreme Court justices is ridiculous. Yes, it's ridiculous because I bet you none of these candidates got more than 50% of the vote.
You are correct. Well, no, Flanagan did. I'm sorry, Flanagan got 57% of the vote right now, based on the numbers that I'm looking at. That's with 96% of the precincts, and then Kirkpatrick got 31% of the vote, and it goes on down from there.
So my point is on this is if you don't get 50% of the vote in a primary, you should move on to take the top 2 and go to the next phase, to the general election, because somebody now will be a Supreme Court justice with 30% of the vote.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there.
Yeah.
But you and Craig Blair both left me with more questions, so we'll bring you back.
Well, it's great to be with you.
Great to have you.
Yeah,
so
you've
much.
done a great job this evening.
Oh, you're kind. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for your time. Join us again tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on your local Nexstar Stations app. We've got a lot of people to have back. We have more conversations to have, and we'll look forward to the general election. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here next time.